I'm sure it's still like that with mine at 14. It's a little more, but basically it's still at that level until I drag it all out of him. Of, okay, how about this and this and this and this and I've got
because
to
it's
know
not
his
on the
patterns,
table.
but, yeah.
It's not on the table. There's two reasons why you're going to have trouble getting it out. One, it's unconscious. Two, he's been made wrong for it lots of times. Lots of times. Not by you personally, but by the teachers, by the people around. What do you mean you can't do that? What do you mean you don't understand the assignment? The other 28 kids got the same assignment. They understood it. What's wrong with you? Why? How come you didn't write it down? And it's well-meaning. It's all well-meaning. It's like, come on, we want to help you. But every one of those statements says, what's wrong with you?
Right.
They all of them. The tone of voice, everything. It says, what's wrong with you? So, yeah, it's 5-10 years of that, and you kind of like say, you know, you and the horse you rode in on. Okay, but I digress. So, test-taking strategies. We'll come back to this a little bit more under motivation and stuff. Test-taking strategies. First of all, you want to be prepared. Second of all, when you sit down to take the test, take that 30 seconds to a minute, get your focus, settle in, take a breath, get your head in the game. You want to be in the right frame of mind. This is not baseball, football, soccer. It's a very different state of mind. You don't want to be keyed up and like, yeah, let's go get him, yeah. Come here, teacher, yeah, come here. You know, that's not a good preparation for a test where you have to think. Okay. A lot of this is geared towards the STAR testing and those automated, or what do you call them? Scantron tests. Look over the test really quick. Just look through the book. Is it 10 pages? Is it 20 pages? Is it 30 pages? Is it 10 questions, 30 questions, or 100 questions? Do you have 50 minutes or 15 minutes? Your brain will, you don't have to do the math, Mom, unfortunately. You don't have to do the math. Your brain's going to get a feel. Okay, do I have 5 minutes per question or 30 seconds per question? Good? Okay. When doing the Scantron tests, I know they don't like people to write in the books. I know they don't like you to put your answers in the books and all this other nonsense. Tough. We're on my time here. This is my test. It's my dime. I'm going to write on whatever I feel like. Okay? And I tell all my kids to write your answers in the book. So what you want to do is you're going through the book.
So these are supposed to be the ones I find that have the answers already written in them.
Yeah. Well, that's their problem. They can dispose of the books, do whatever they want. Okay? Or after the test, make me sit there and erase it. I don't care. But here's what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to look at question 1, and then question 2, and then question 3, and I got A, B, C, D, and A, B, C, D, and then A, B, C, D. Okay, what I want to do is I want to read this question. I want to ask myself, it's in here, I'm going to ask myself, what are they asking me? And I'm going to make a picture of the question. I want to visualize the question. And this is very quickly, okay? This is like 1/30th of a second. So we're not taking any time here. Okay? And in fact, once you practice this on 1 or 2 practice tests, it'll be, by the time you do 100 questions like this, your brain's got it, it's automatic. It'll do it automatically. And most of the time, the answer to the question is going to be the picture of the question, or some portion thereof. It's very, very fast. What I want to do is I want to go and I'm going to circle my answer in the book. I'm going to circle my answer in the book. I do not want to go and okay, B or B and And then, okay, question 2. Dun, 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 dun. C. Okay, this may seem silly, but filling in that dot, that little artistic kind of process, is a totally different thought process than being focused on answering the questions. Does that make sense? So it is not just about saving a few seconds, it's about having to take your brain back and forth to those two different processes. So what I say, and also if you want to start skipping ones and do the easy ones first, which you should always do on any test, then you risk of getting one in the wrong place, and now you got to go back and you got to redo them all again. Okay? So for a variety of reasons, I always suggest you circle the answers in the book. If you don't know it, if you go through it and you say, no, it's not that, and it's not that, now you're down to a 50-50. You can usually eliminate 2 answers right away. So I come back to that one later. And then the next one is C. Got that one. Okay. Now I go through the book. Let's say, now I'll just do some simple oversimplified math. Let's say I start with 100 minutes and 100 questions. Okay? All right? We have to do a little math. How many minutes per question? Yes!
I'm on it.
1 minute per question. Now, let's say I just blow through the test, I do the easy ones first. Okay? And let's say I do, because I'm pretty good, let's say I do half the questions. I do 50 questions. Well, let's do this one. I do 50 questions in, I do 50 questions in 25 minutes. So I started with 100 and 100. I subtract 25 and 50, and what do I get? I have 75 minutes left, but only 50 questions. So now how many minutes per question do I have?
So that's hard math.
1.5. Very good. 1.5. 1.5 minutes per question. Let's say now I slow down, because they're getting tougher. I go back again, and I get another 25 questions, but it takes me a full minute to do each one. So I do 25 minutes and 25 questions. Subtract from 75 and 50. Now I have 50 minutes left, but only 25 questions. So how many minutes per question do I have? 50 minutes and 25 questions.
Oh, 2.
2, yes. Now, if I was to start taking 2 minutes per question, there's a really good chance I would run out of time. See? And then I get halfway or 3/4 through the test, and the first time I took the estimating exam, professional estimator's exam, I was sitting there with one other guy, and I'm diligently doing all the math. If you haven't taken it, okay. I'm doing all the math, all the takeoffs and the calculations, boom, 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 I'm plugging them in, double checking them. Man, I'm getting all the right answers. And it was a 3-hour test, right? This is part 1. Part 1 was a 3-hour test. And all of a sudden we hear the proctor say, and it was about 100 questions or so, 120 questions. So we hear the proctor say, 1 hour left on this like 3 or 4 hour exam, I forget now. And I'm on like question 35. I was like, oh man. Okay, I should have known better than that. Later on, I talked to a friend of mine who passed the test, and he said he actually skipped all the math. I thought, wait a minute. This is a professional estimator's exam, and you pass the test by skipping all the math questions. I thought that was funny.
Right.
So, but you see, you start off with a minute per question. By doing the easy ones first, you wind up with 2 minutes per question. Now leave 5 minutes or so to put all your answers back on the Scantron. But look at this. Now I got 2 minutes to mess around and look back, check the questions. I can narrow it down, you know, in some cases. Like I said, you get a 50-50 shot. You always answer all the questions. Always. There's no point ever not answering. Because if you have the vaguest, if you can even eliminate one answer as being totally stupid, you have a better chance of getting the points than getting the points taken away. So that's kind of the first four. Let's see, what else? Yeah, again, answer the question, ask the question, what is this question about? Look away from the words. Don't keep your face buried in the book. Just look up and get into that visual space. That's where your brain is really going to crank out those answers. Go. Boom. Every question counts the same. Read and answer the questions. For read and answer questions. When possible, we talk about this, read the questions first. Read the questions first and pull out the key words. That's what we're interested in, just the key words, so that when we actually read the passage, oh, boom, Indians, acorns, the information jumps out at you. Usually don't overthink the questions. If you're not sure, Kathy, feel the right answer. Trust your gut. Math problems. Okay. I say read the entire problem carefully. But for visual guys, what I actually put out there as a possibility, as you divide the question up into two pieces. So here's your math question. And there are two pieces to this question. There is information, and there is the actual question, the query, right? Okay. According to Professor Chomsky and some other folks, we take in 2 million bits of information per second, and we wade through that and eliminate, we ignore, delete, we distort it, until we get down to 125 plus or minus 5 bits per second. 2,125,000. Okay? So 99% of what we take in, 99% of the information we take in, we ignore completely. We ignore it. Why do we pick information to pay attention to? What separates the information that we pay attention to?
Keywords. Keywords.
Good answer for your teacher, but not correct.
Survival.
Survival. Survival. It's relevant to our survival. It's important. Does that make sense? It's going to change my life for better or for worse. That information. There's a bear chasing me. Ooh, I better pay attention. Okay? What's another less threatening example?
There's a car coming at you.
Yeah, it's still
pretty threatening
the
too,
bear
right?
on wheels.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a storm on the horizon.
There's a storm on the horizon. I better get inside, or whatever. So we pay attention to things that are relevant to our survival. I'm not going to get into survival of what. That's a little more complicated question. But unless I have a query, unless I have a question to answer, a problem. Let's get a little more general from survival. If I have a problem, I'm going to try to solve that by using information. I'm going to pay attention to the information. If I'm stuck in the mud, I'm going to look around to see, okay, what information can help me get out of the mud, right? So I want to solve a problem, or in our timeline, I'm here and I want to get to there. So But if I don't have a question or a problem, what do I do with the information? So, for high visuals, something that I put out there as a strategy to at least try out with math questions is to read the question first. Do you notice that when he gets instructions, usually simple, very simple instructions like solve for x or calculate y, those aren't a problem.
Right.
And then he gets the information, the equation.
Ones.
When he gets a paragraph of information without a question, that's a problem. So, I would suggest that he read the question first. You know, how fast, how far, how many, how few, the difference between...
Go to the bottom of the paragraph.
Skip to the bottom. With younger guys, I say, and even older guys, I'll put it out there for older guys too, underline the question, particularly the units.
Right.
Particularly units. Now the units, once I know what the units are in that question, how fast, how far, how many miles did they drive, how long did it take to get there, how many peaches did she can, okay? That lets me know, you know, number of peaches, number of peaches per can. Number of peaches, that's my answer. Peaches divided by cans. Okay? Miles divided by hours. Feet divided by seconds. Does that make sense? So once I have the answer in units, now I can form an equation. Well, there's only so many ways to get the number of peaches per can. I better have something that adds up to peaches, and I better have something that tells me how many cans. I need the number of peaches and the number of cans. If I want miles per hour, I better have some miles and hours in here somewhere. So now that I have the answer and the basis for an equation, let's go back to the information. Blah, 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 blah. You know, three peaches and 6 peaches, or 3 cans and 6 cans, and blah, 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 peaches. Oh, there you go. There it is. So the question drives the answer drives the equation, right? The equation, because they have to balance out, and the equation tells me how to plug in the information. So we want to do verbal word problems backwards, as a general rule. All right. When possible, use estimating and rounding off to eliminate dumb answers. Answer every question, even guessing the odds are in your favor. All right, critical thinking. This is really good. And I have a diagram that I wanna hold on. Look at something. Critical thinking. One second. What time is it? Is it? Oh, let's take a little break. Let's take a 15-minute break here before we go into this next one.
Sometimes when I take a test, I think about why are they asking me this question?
I know.
Because that could make the answer different. Of course, that probably doesn't apply to math, but it applies to other things. For example, I had a teacher, a nutrition teacher. taking nutrition, and she believed that honey was totally the same as white sugar, that there was no difference. We all know that honey has natural enzymes and vitamins in it, and so she asked questions like that, and I knew she wanted to answer to say that honey was no different. So when she asked questions about that, I gave her the answers that she wanted, even though it wasn't true.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want to believe that for whatever reason. She had certain things where she made up her mind. So she asked questions to see if you were agreeing with her.
Oh, wow. Then she'll give you a name, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
That's in the college realm. Hopefully, high school teachers don't like that. Well, now my daughter went to college, and she had a teacher that was really for the side of the gays agenda, and a lot of her questions were to check to see which side that you were on. So if you answered them different than what she believed, she didn't give you a good grade. So.
Yeah, I have an art teacher that did the same thing to me. I brought that was my ex-boyfriend inside. She didn't like it. She thinks that, it's a copyright stuff, whatever she's doing. I was like, he's done with all these art classes. So I kicked him out. From then on, no matter how nice my artwork is, to my belief, she still gave me bad grade. It's just, up to the teacher. You have no control of it, because they're the one who gives you the grades. I'd rather help than give grades, Do you have this package? I have that in my mail. This is much bigger.
That's why I pulled that out, because, well, you couldn't really see it. It was just bigger, and that's why I used it.
Bigger's always better.
I
I
know.
hate looking at things that are
It's
small.
I can see it still, but it's
I
just
know.
like
My eyes are
visually,
just kinda like,
I
I
need
hate
to
reading.
squint.
It's like when I'm reading on the computer. I hate reading on the computer. I'd rather have something printed out and just full size. And my daughter reads on the computer all the time. I'm like, really? How can you do that? It drives me nuts. I couldn't do that.
Yesterday she was talking about behavior, and one of the behavior that he's acting that way is because he doesn't understand. You got
The
go
frustration.
back. Frustration. And so you have to get a meeting with everybody. Do you know why he fights him? Do you know why he did it? You gotta look back. Is it because he's frustrated with the work you gave him? It's like, yes. And how are you gonna help him? And so
Yeah, with my son, he's had anger and just started fighting like since he was a baby. And he's never not been that way. And maybe he's been frustrated his whole life because he couldn't communicate with us maybe, or, wasn't understanding us, we weren't understanding him.
Your average 2-year-old is going to start being frustrated.
Oh, right, yeah.
The
that's
moment
normal.
they start
Yes.
to try to walk and crawl and communicate,
Yes.
they're going to be frustrated. It's a
Right.
normal
Yes.
human emotion.
Right.
Now,
It's just all
does
that-
it get amplified in some kids?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You were talking about how when you're angry, you don't want your wife to point out that you messed up, you just need time alone and what
Yeah.
have you. And I get that 'cause my husband's the exact same way, but with my son, when he gets angry like that, he starts destroying things in his proximity. He's going to take it out on anything within his,
Somehow.
vision, basically. Whatever furniture, wall, whatever
Well,
is
see,
in his.
that's not okay.
Right, I know. So I don't know. What do you do with something like that? Is there a trick to diffusing it? Because
I fight like
I
6
mean-
and 5.
Well, again, at his age, he's got to make some choice in
Yeah, I
there.
was more stressed.
And he has gotten better over the years, but it's still, he has his moments where he can't reel it in. He can't, and he wants to. You can see he wants to reel it back in. He wants to get control over it.
Right.
It's just escaped him, and he can't
At least
pull it
Thursday
back.
at 6 in the morning. Because I didn't know there was no flights for after.
Yeah.
Moving here, you know, so.
It's kind of that kind of emotional, intense response. It really, it has to be dealt with at the unconscious level, and there may be a combination of things. So, I mean, you probably want, there's probably something in his, again, back in his past, that's giving him an example of that behavior. So that behavior is connected to seeing it somewhere. Either, if we don't want to blame his parents or grandparents, let's say he saw it in a movie.
Well, I'd say his dad is like that. My brother is like that.
There you go.
It's
There you go.
genetically, down the line, absolutely.
Right.
And
And the good thing is you can see, obviously, is it has nothing to do with his conscious thought process.
Yeah.
Once it gets to that point,
It's
he needs to unleash that anger and that.
And see, I tried to go that route too. Of okay, there's a big pile of pillows here. You can throw them. You can punch him. You can do whatever
But
you
he
want.
needs to break something.
Yes, because you know
right?
what? That just fed into it. That just frustrated him more. That did
Yeah.
not give him any satisfaction whatsoever.
Yeah.
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 that backfired.
He needs to break something.
Yeah.
So that is not as unusual as you might think. But anyway, the problem is that is rooted way in the past. So every time he hits that type of feeling, that kind of emotion, right? It triggers that emotion, and boom, it triggers that behavior.
Right.
It's connected at the unconscious level and in the past. So anything that is familiar or reminds him of that situation or that circumstances,
Triggers the
that
response.
powerlessness, okay, which is almost always what it's connected to.
Right.
A feeling of powerlessness.
Right.
Okay. What's more powerful than breaking
Destroying.
something?
Right.
You know?
You're overcompensating
Why?
for this feeling of I feel like a failure. I feel powerless. So now if I break this, look at that. I wanted to be
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah. So let's go bomb somebody. Let's.
All right.
You know. I can't win the election again, so I'll go bomb somebody. So, who haven't we picked on lately? Oh yeah, the Middle East. We haven't been there in years. Psh, let's go bomb them. You know. Well, we took care of Japan and
Germany?
and Vietnam and of course the Philippines. We got to have our Nikes, so we're not gonna bother them. And the Aussies, they don't really care about anybody, so I don't even I think their army is about the size of the Boy Scouts or something. And we've screwed up every country south of the equator, so that they're not going to bother anybody. We got Korea handled because they're fighting each other. Plus, we got to be careful with them because China will there's the one country left in the world that we don't want to mess with.
So do you have any thoughts of how to stop it once it's reached that explosive state of how to?
Okay, here's the one thing you can do. There's the one thing that you can do without some really kind of advanced training to deal with it before it happens, which it really needs to be. I mean, if he was my client, I would say a couple hours of time techniques, or sometimes somebody we call it timeline therapy, and re-anchoring that response to a new outcome. It would probably be something like first basically eliciting that response, and then first anchoring a null anchor, which is basically like a null response, which it's like being confused.
Right.
So you anchor that feeling, that is state of confusion, and then you elicit the behavior, the feeling, and you fire off the null response.
Right.
So that opens up a lot of ground because now the nervous system is really confused.
Right.
And then you can install a new behavior. Okay. barring that, barring timeline
Right.
therapy, to really get at this thing, what I would say is have several responses in your hip pocket
Right.
that are going to totally surprise him. They're non-threatening, they're non-critical,
Right.
but totally off the wall. Like, well, if you're angry, then I'm going to the movies.
Right.
Okay?
Just be random and
Yeah.
so, like, yeah.
Run for your lives! Ah!
'Cause-
I don't know. I don't just.
Yeah. He does things like that to me all the time. We'll be doing something.
And what
he will just say something totally random, off the wall, not relevant. It's like, what?
Yeah, it totally
He
shocks
does
you.
that all the time. So,
Totally
yeah.
shocks you.
Yeah.
And then there's actually, if you can catch it, there's actually a teachable moment. Richard Bandler, he was known for being able to put somebody in a trance just by shaking their hand, and he would get them confused, and they'd be
Grab
like,
that moment. And,
yeah, and he'd like stand there in the hall and like throw this guy into a total trance and hypnotize him and tell him a bunch of stuff. And it all just started with the way he would shake his hand, and he would pull his hand away a little bit,
Right.
and it would be like,
Right. Use that moment to.
and boom, they're you know, he was so good and so fast, it was like 5 seconds and they're in trance.
Wow.
So being confused is actually a really big opening, but you're gonna have to like really be good.
Right.
You gotta have those responses right there at the
Right.
ready
Right.
to pull them out, and just totally shocking, totally off the wall, and that'll snap them.
Okay, so what happens when he snaps out and says, "Well, what movie are we going to go see? Do I have to go to the movies at that point?"
Well, I
Are
just
we
use
at
that. I just threw that out.
I know. I'm just saying whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I don't have the answer for everything.
Yeah.
Just something. It could be something off the wall.
Right.
Do you smell popcorn? That's a good one. You know.
My house usually smells like popcorn. It's a common thing.
Did you make popcorn?
I-
Suzanne, did you make popcorn? No. What? Where was I? I was mad. What do you mean?
Yeah, he's like that. If you can get him to distract and stop, like if something happened that startled him or whatever, then
Yeah.
he'll let it go. He'll forget, because I guess that's ADHD. I don't know. He just forgets that he was mad.
Well, it's you're interrupting the pattern.
Yeah.
See, the pattern is event,
Right. Frustration.
emotion.
Right.
So it's lack of control, feeling of powerlessness, emotion, anger, frustration, and then behavior. It's boom, boom, boom. So if you interrupt this at any point, oh, it stops. So that's, like I said, without taking him to somebody like myself,
Right. Yeah, I see where you're
or
going.
getting some serious
Some
training
serious-
yourself,
Right.
that's the one you can do, you know, with just a little bit of
Right.
creativity, and just throw them off. Boom.
Yeah.
What? Popcorn? What? Or go in the other room and scream like there's a spider or something like that.
Have him come rescue me. There's usually a spider in some room in my house. So
Yeah,
you know.
there you go. Yeah, let them come rescue you. So, critical thinking. Critical thinking. Okay. Sometimes this is a struggle for ADD guys or ADHD guys, only because there's too much going on in their head. Actually, let's get. Okay. A lot of kids faced with developmental disorders, pervasive developmental disorders, they struggle with critical thinking, particularly deductive and inductive reasoning, being able to make good judgment, good choices. So one of the struggles is that, like everything else, the information is usually presented to them in a written or verbal format, and they can't make sense of it. In fact, even normal people, if you notice, if you think of lines from your 2 favorite movies, pick a movie.
I'm blank. I have no idea.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day. Give me another movie.
16 Candles.
Wow.
Dirty Dancing.
Okay, Dirty Dancing. I've seen that one.
Terminator.
Well, let's stay with 16.
Okay.
With Dirty Dancing. Okay, so the first one was
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day. I can't think of a line from Groundhog Day. Bill Murray.
You think you could because they kept repeating it
Oh.
over and over and over.
Yeah, well,
But
its famous line is in the bar with the guy. What would you do if every day was the same and nothing ever changes and what
Okay,
didn't
so
matter?
Bill Murray, what would you do if every day was the same? What would you do if every day was the same? And
The guy says,
Dirty Dancing, nobody puts baby in the corner. Remember that? I remember that line. What's his name?
Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze. Okay, so Patrick Swayze, nobody puts baby in the corner. Bill Murray, what would you do if every day was the same? Okay, now, try to say those 2 lines together at the same time in your head. Try to hear them together. Can anybody do it?
not well.
No, not at all.
one has to
You can do one, then the other. You can do pieces of one and pieces of the other, but you can't overlay them. Okay, now everybody close your eye. Oh, and also, do you hear that any other way except forward, sequentially? You don't hear it going backwards, like Bill Murray doesn't go, right? You don't hear that. You just hear, you always hear it in the same order. Whenever you think of that line or that movie, you hear it in the same order. So it goes from past to future, and it's always sequential, one after the other. Okay? Now, close your eyes. Picture over on the upper left, Patrick Swayze grabbing baby out of the corner, and on the right, Bill Murray sitting in the bar, saying, you know, what would you do if every day was the same? Can you see them both at the same time? Yes. Yes. Can you compare the differences between the 2? Can you see how they're both the same in some ways by looking at the pictures in your imagination? Yes. Can you extrapolate something from the first movie and make it into the second movie? So even normal people can actually do this. Maybe this is how they normally do it. I wouldn't know. But I do know that for our guys to do critical thinking, it has to be in a visual format. To come up with it, whether it's an essay or an answer to a bizarre science question or whatever it is, or extrapolate information from a movie or a book or whatever it is, we have to picture it in order to do this effectively. We visualize it, and then we can pull it out, we can compare, we can contrast. We can take that situation and deduce something that's inside of it. Like, I can drive a car, I can drive anywhere. So then I can drive to Philadelphia. Not that I really want to go to Philadelphia. But if I can drive anywhere, then I can drive. So it's kind of like if then. If then. Does that make sense? The other one is induction, inductive reasoning. But notice, I picture myself driving anywhere. I get the first picture. Now, can I drive to Philadelphia? Oh, yeah. Maybe that's what W.C. Fields meant. All things considered, I'd rather be in Philadelphia. Okay. Guess imitations aren't my forte. Yeah. Somebody asked him, do you like children? He said, only when properly cooked. Okay. No, my favorite was somebody caught him in a hotel room. He was reading the Bible. He said, "Bill, what are you doing? You're reading the Bible." He said, "Just looking for loopholes." Okay, now induction is just the opposite. So notice that in this one, the other way we would say this, anybody have a clue? Not Kathy, but anybody else? We're getting smaller. What would we call that? Remember from writing? We're deducing, we're deducting from, we're getting smaller, we're
What is it? Clumping?
chunking down. We're chunking down, yes. All right. Okay, and in this one, we're getting outside the box. A little tougher, a little tougher. This is why, you know, most companies in the United States are failing at one point or another, because their management sucks. Their managers can't do this. They went to school, they learned all there was to learn, but they can't get out of the box. This is really tough. So if you can teach your kids to do this, they're like going to be like light years ahead. So how do you get outside the box? Which we would call what? Chunking. Or inductive reasoning, induction. So, if I can drive to Philadelphia, maybe I can drive to Alaska. Does that make sense? Ooh. Maybe I can drive anywhere. If I can drive to Philadelphia, heck, I could probably drive anywhere. So one is getting outside the box, one is getting narrower inside the box. Chunking down, chunking up. Easy way to put it. So, oh, there's more about inductive and deductive reasoning. And again, I would make those two boxes to show chunking up, chunking down. Let's see. We already took a break, didn't we?
Moments ago.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. So I think we've already talked, we've really broached the goal setting and looking the future and the past, having ourselves being driven by the past versus reaching out and pulling ourselves toward some future. The past has already happened. There's nothing we can do to change it. So therefore, we must feel like victims of our past. And when your son gets frustrated, he's feeling victimized, he's feeling powerless. Why? Because it's of something that's just happened. It's in the past. He's not going to feel that way about the future unless he's projecting. And the nice thing is, since the future hasn't happened yet, you can make it whatever you want. It's really tough to feel, you know, victimized by your future, to the extent that you're not projecting from the past. So we kind of like this view. We kind of like this as a model for building our self-motivation, is looking towards the future. And you can hear the languaging of the old way, which is, you know, they made me, she made me, I have to, I must, I can't, I should. You know, people are shitting all over themselves.